there, Marsha Egan here. This is the second video in our Email Gems series, and we are glad you are back with us. We have gotten a lot of great comments from you about our first video and about the challenges that you continue to have with your email management. The reason we are doing this is it's not really about email, it's about you, and it's about your life balance. And everybody seems to be challenged with life balance these days. Well, part of that is you need time to do the things that are important to you. And guess what? It's not email. Sure, email is part of your job, but we want to get you out of email and into your lives. And that's why we're doing this series. Now, just a very, very quick recap. You can go back and watch the first video, but a few points. One is interruptions are time suckers. Pardon my French there, but the more interruptions you have, and email's a huge interrupter, the more time you're wasting. So we want to stop or minimize the number of interruptions that we have in a day. And that first video tells you how to do it. And one of the most important things is to turn off all the dings and the flashes and to stop checking for email every time you have a break. There's more on that in the first video, so go back and watch it if you wish. The other point is it's about self-management, and you need to decide when to turn that thing off and when to shut it down so that you can work on more important stuff. So let's get started in the second part of this series, which is we told you that it was important for you to manage your inboxes. We told you that instead of leaving everything in your inbox, you need to put it somewhere else. And the word is triage. And I'm going to say that again. Triaging your work is one of the keys to you managing all those emails. In our last video, we talked about sorting your work rather than working your emails. Well, this is part 2. And before we get into this, I just want to say thank you so much for watching and investing your time in trying to find more time. I love it. Anyway, why am I doing this? Why should you be listening to me? Well, I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I have been doing this for 8 or 9 years now. I actually wrote the book. And the book is Inbox Detox and the Habit of Email Excellence. I'm not selling that today. I'm not selling anything to you in this email on the brain, in this video, because what I am selling you on is helping you reclaim one more or more hours every day. And there are tons of tips on this. What we're going to be talking about today mostly is how to triage your work. All right, so you get a deluge of emails in every day. We all do. 80 to 180 is the average for the office worker. So what happens when it comes in? It comes into your inbox and it's waiting there for you to do something with it. Well, what we want to do is do something with it. And that means you're either going to delete it, which you're probably going to delete at least a third of all those that come in there. You're going to delete it. You're going to defer it. We're going to talk about that later because we don't necessarily want to work every item that comes into our email and inbox. We want to, we want to delegate it. That's another D. And the other, what's the other D is, we want to decide. We don't want to look at it and say, I'll decide later. So whenever it's your turn to look at that email message, go in with the idea that you are going to decide something and move it out of your inbox. I know that's heresy, but one of the biggest productivity killers that people can have, yes, you got to believe me on that, is that leaving things in your inbox to be looked at again and again and again and again. A lot of people leave things in their inboxes because they're afraid they'll lose track of it. Well, You won't lose track of it, but guess what you're going to be doing with it? You are going to be looking at it every day. And every day you're going to be deciding, I'm not going to work it today. That is wasted time. They say that the average mid to senior level manager looks at each email an average of 7 times before it goes out of the inbox. That is crazy. That's crazy. We don't want to do that. So what we're going to do, it's my rule, touch it twice. Now, in the olden days, time management gurus used to say, touch it once. Well, that's a whole bunch of hooey. It doesn't work in this day and age of email clutter. Touch it twice. And the first time you touch it, we're going to decide what to do with it, and then we're going to do something with it. And the second time you touch it is when you're going to work it. So it's 2 touches, not 1. And for heaven's sakes, stop leaving it in your inbox just so that you won't lose track of it. That is one of the biggest questions that we got in all of the questions that we received from you in the last month on how to better manage your email. How do I keep track of it? Here's the answer. Create an action folder. I'm talking about Outlook, but any email client has the capability for you to folderize or labelize. And so you want to create an action folder. And anything that requires your action, anything, goes into the action folder. Now, you say, well, that's what I use my inbox for. Well, no, because when you leave it in your inbox, you scroll up and down all the time looking at it and then deciding not to work it again. So it's a 2-step process. We're going to move it into the action folder, and then we are also going to trigger a reminder. And the reminder has to do with when you're going to work it. I'm going to say that again. Once you decide that something requires your action, you move it into your action folder. I label it action folder. Not rocket science here, folks. Anyway, so we're going to do that. But the second part of that is you need to decide when you are going to work it. And here's the example. Your boss sends you an email saying, I need this report on the 1st of the month. You get the email on the 15th of the month. You're not going to drop everything right then and do the report. You're going to decide when you're going to want to see that again. Maybe 10 days out, maybe 8 days out, maybe 5 days out. So decide the date that you want to see it again. That's when you set your reminder. Set a reminder for it, and that's how you don't look at it every day for the next 10 days deciding not to work it. I hope you understand that. And the way you set the reminder, this is again not rocket science. Whatever is working for you now will work for that. Some people use Microsoft Tasks. Some people use flags. Some people use a day planner. Some people use sticky notes everywhere. Whatever works for you will work in this scenario. But the good thing about it is you are not seeing it every day for the next 10 days. Now, for those of you who get wiggy about it, losing control of it, there's only one place for you to look. The only place for you to look for something that you might need to work on sooner is your action folder. Ah, how easy is that? But there are a lot of people out there who create all kinds of folders. They might put it in a client folder. They might put it in a weekly to-do folder. And just make it simple. And if you want to get really, really complicated, have an Action A and an Action B folder. Action A is for important. Action B is not so important. All right, so that's the way we triage our work. Easy. You look at it, you decide whether it needs your action, and if it needs your action, then you move it to your action folder. And then the next step is you decide when you want to work it, and you set that reminder. That's it. Now, there's an exception. I came from the insurance business. There's always an exception in that business, and probably with this too. And this is the magic. This is what's very cool. It's called the 2-minute rule. I love this because if it's going to take you 2 minutes or less to handle it, then handle it, handle it, handle it. Don't go through putting it into an action folder and setting a reminder. So if it's going to take you 120 seconds or less, just handle it. If it's going to take you 121 seconds or more, triage it. Magic. It's magic. If you get yourself into a little bit of a treadmill of doing this with 5-minute and 10-minute topics, you are going to get all balled up. So don't do that. Use the 2-minute rule. That's a touch it once deal. Everything else requiring your action is a touch it twice deal. Now, there's one other type of email processing, and that is for an item that does not require your action, but you want to save and you need to keep. That might be procedures. It might be correspondence from clients. It might be anything you think you need to save. So what we're going to do, we call those reference messages because they don't require your action. So they don't go in your action folder. They go into reference folders, which you probably have sitting there anyway. You may have a reference folder for client correspondence, or you might have a reference folder for medical information, or just, you're going to have a number of reference folders. And oh, here's another little tip. The broader your file folder headings, the better. So have the broad heading rather than all kinds of subfolders, because it's much more efficient to look within a folder than among folders. Okay? Easier to look within a large folder than among folders. So that's where you put the things you need to save. And oh, by the way, stop saving everything. There are things that you don't need to save, and just delete, delete, delete. Delete voraciously, because that affects you because it's clutter. All right, so we want to stop that. Now, one other little point I would like to suggest, and that is, as you are going into your inbox to process, we want to process the top one until it's out of the inbox. Out, gone. Do not move to the next one until it is inbox free. I know that sounds like heresy, but if you leave it in there, you're going to go back to that treadmill of looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. So use the 4 Ds and do not pass go until that item is out of your inbox. Then go to the next, then go to the next, then go to the next. And do not be an email noodler either. Email noodlers are people who scroll up and down to see which one I want to handle next. Well, just do it. And if you want to be very creative, maybe you'll start at the bottom instead of the top. But don't start in the middle. Don't e-noodle, because e-noodling takes a lot of time. And that's what we want to avoid. That's absolutely what we want to avoid. And I just want to emphasize that one of the biggest objections that we get to all of this great advice that we've been giving you is that I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. You're not. You are not going to lose it, because it's going to be in that action folder, and you're going to have a reminder coming out to remind you when to work on it. It is much more simple than you think. And oh, guess what? If you are using digital reminders such as Microsoft Tasks, remind yourself, or trigger it to come out at the same time that you are planning your day. Because when the notice comes out, then you're going to have all those things you need to decide on from a priority standpoint for your day, right? It's not like plan your day, then do email. that doesn't work. Email just delivers tasks. So when it's delivering a task, it's kind of makes sense to have it be delivered at the same time you're organizing your day, whether that's in the morning or at night. So have them all come out, and you know how we do that when we organize our day. We look at everything that we need to see and that we need to decide on, and then we decide their priorities. And that's how all this works. So I hope this has been helpful to you. We have another video that's coming out in 3 or 4 days, and believe it or not, the way you write your e-messages is a productivity impact. And if you write effective, efficient messages, guess what? You're going to be even more productive. And we're going to have a lot of tips on that as well. So stay tuned. Let us know. We're not selling anything here today other than the fact that we want you to comment. And you've gotten to the end of this video, so please go back to that web page that this video was on and leave a comment about what works for you, what you're still struggling with. I'm following these comments, so I just love it that you're so engaged in all this. And so thank you very much, and we'll see you in a few.